Hi, I'm Kai Cheng Thom, and you're watching Ask Kai, Quick Tips for the Apocalypse, a series of short videos in which I'll be answering all your questions about how to survive and thrive in the middle of a pandemic. So today's question is, things are finally starting to feel a little bit more normal where I live, and I'm ready to start dating again. But I'm still a little worried about having the conversation. How do I talk about safety, transmission, and COVID-19 with people that I might want to start seeing? I love this question, and I tend to love questions about dating and safety and talking to partners or potential partners for this series, because the answers are actually usually almost identical to the kind of answers I would give if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic. So of course we wouldn't be talking about COVID-19 transmission if we weren't having a pandemic right now. But we might be talking about how do you have the talk about STIs, past partner history, sexual health, all that sort of thing with a potential partner. And I don't want to say there's a silver lining to the pandemic, because there's really never a silver lining to tragedy, but one of the resiliencies or opportunities that we have in this moment is actually that we're being forced to learn how to be more upfront with people in a certain way as a result of the conditions we're living in now. So we have to figure out, how do we do harm reduction? We have to figure out, how do we be responsible with our own bodies and other people's bodies when we're considering intimacy? And this is a skill that you can use all the time. It is an important skill for life. So hooray, we get to figure out how to date during a pandemic. It's wonderful. Honestly, the best thing to do is ask the question straight up. And it kind of doesn't get more complex than that. Like, you're about to date someone, you're kind of feeling it, and you want to ask them out, or they just asked you out, and you're both into it. The thing to say is something like, that sounds awesome, I would love to date, or I would love to go out with you, or I would love to hook up. How do you want to manage COVID safety? And this is where good communication and honesty is key, super key, because what we want to share with people is the amount of risk that we're about to take on. And different activities will result in different levels of risk, right? So having a socially distanced date in the park is going to be relatively low risk compared to like an in-person, at-home date, which is going to be relatively low risk compared to having sexual intercourse where you exchange lots of bodily fluids, right? So that's one thing to talk about, is what are the risks involved with that, and are you both ready to take on that level of risk? And then the extra complication is, who are the other people involved in your lives? And so this is comparable to having a conversation about past sexual history or concurrent sexual partners, right? So if you're dating multiple people, then you would kind of always want to talk about STIs or risk, transmission risk, with people you were having sex with anyway. And this is just a little bit extra true because of COVID-19. You're not only talking about partners, you're talking about all the people whom you might be, I guess the term is like potted with, bubbled with, exchanging droplets with. So you want to be able to be really clear with people you're inviting into your dating life. Actually, you want to be clear with anyone you're inviting into your life right now, who is involved and who else's transmission risk or who else's droplets might they be getting exposed to. And you know, it can be sometimes hard to keep track of all this depending on what your life looks like, right? Like if you're working frontline right now, or if you're doing a lot of care work for people. So I would say like, it might be a good idea actually to write a list, right? Like to actually map out who you're seeing so that you can show this list to your prospective partner or dating person, hookup partner. And then, you know, it's fair, it's super fair to ask, could you write down your list for me? So that you can kind of take that away and look at it and think about the number of people that you're okay with being exposed to, the number of people you're okay exposing others to. So you'll just want to flag the people in your life who are higher risk for any particular reason, right? So if there are folks whom you're bonded with or you're potting with who are elderly or immunocompromised or otherwise vulnerable, so that's what you do. You map things out, you have the conversation, and then you know that the emotional piece is you kind of have to take the leap of faith. And the difficult thing is, I think, usually taking the leap of faith around honesty. Like, I am going to tell this person what kinds of risks I'm exposed to. And then we have to deal with the fear, right? The fear that we're going to be rejected. The other person's going to be like, whoa, that's way too risky for me. Just like in the past, a big fear, and it continues today, there's a big fear is like, well, if I tell someone about STIs that I've had, or if I tell someone how many partners I've had, they might be like, oh, you're a slut. And then, slut shame us and reject us. And now, because we have all this extra kind of danger floating around as a result of COVID-19, I imagine some of us are carrying like pod shame, right? Like a risk shame. Oh, I'm a risky person. I might contaminate someone. They might not want to see me. We might be tempted to manipulate our way into intimacy or sex by lying or omitting some truths about the risks in our lives. And there's no easy answer to this except as we grow, as we mature, as we learn what healthy relationships are like, we learn that in the long run, honesty almost always pays off. In terms of what the quality of intimacy we're able to get is and what the quality of intimacy we're able to give is. And so of course we also have to trust that the other person is going to do that honesty and authenticity back for us. And let's just be real, that's hard because they are not always going to. People are not always going to be honest with us, because they also are feeling that same fear about rejection, not being good enough. They might just really want to get laid and not have to deal with the responsibilities of that. So that's where we have to start to learn, how can I tell when someone is maybe not being totally trustworthy with me? What are the signs? How do I know when, maybe my gut's telling me I don't feel totally comfortable with what someone is saying? And then we learn to get a bit protective around ourselves while acknowledging we're not perfect, right? Our alarm systems for detecting bullshit are not going to be perfect, and other people are not always going to be perfect. So we have to kind of learn to be okay with like a certain amount of risk, because intimacy, sexual or not, always involves some amount of risk, and also how to protect ourselves, right? So even when you get to the dating stage, just to think about like, okay, well maybe to go slowly, with risk-taking, if that feels right, so that you can get a gauge of the person first, right? Have the social distance hangout maybe before the hookup, if that feels right for you. Just maybe putting in those little extra bits of time and exposure to the person so that you can kind of get a sense of who they are and where they're coming from, even if you're just there for a hookup. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ask Kai, quick tips for the apocalypse. Stay safe, wear your mask, and don't go on Twitter. Twitter is bad. Twitter is bad for your health.